Why don't we dive in since it's just 1 o'clock? As I've said several times in the last few days, I'm the person who's worked in theater for a long time in the front of house capacity, so I'm used to starting things. Oh, hi, folks. Hi, Yusuf. I'm used to having things start 5 minutes late, but I don't want to do that because I don't want to waste your time. And I do want to talk about this program that I'm starting called Muse Mapping. So let me talk a little bit about how Muse Mapping sort of came to be. So again, my name is Julie Henriques. I have had many hats in my creative career. I've worked in the arts, in the performing arts on the administrative side for over 30 years. When I say that, it kind of blows my mind, but it's true. I've worked in all different capacities. I've been a company manager, I've been a general manager, I've worked in advertising and marketing, I've programmed venues, I teach theater management classes, so a lot of different administrative roles because I love the arts and I love the performing arts, and that's one way I could figure out how to do it. I also worked with a service organization called Stage Source here in the New England area, which is a fabulous organization for the New England theater community and performing arts community, and do wonderful work. And so, you know, I've worn many different hats, and I've learned a lot of things, and I've been able to talk to a lot of different creative folks. A year ago, I set off on my own journey to start Your Ladders. And my initial idea around Your Ladders, which still exists, is it's a platform to support artists with the business skills they need to go on their creative journey. But in the last year, since I've started Your Ladders, a couple of things have happened. One is that it has been suggested to me that I wasn't talking enough about my own creative journey. I'm a multi-published, traditionally published mystery writer. I have 7 books published so far. And so I've been on my own journey and learned a lot on the way. I've also taken classes and I'm working to become a certified life coach with a focus on creativity to help folks get through paths. So as I'm talking to people about my own creative journey and answering questions or meeting people, you know, out and about, I've noticed that I've met 3 different people, or 3 different types of people who are inspiring me to create Muse Mapping. The first are folks who have felt the call of the muse but haven't answered it, either because they chose to ignore it or because they've been afraid to. When I talk about the call of the muse, I should make this really clear right away. I wear 2 different hats all the time. I balance the absolute knowledge that when I'm being creative and when I'm working with creative folks, that there's a magic involved to it. There's a lot of hard work and there's a lot of perseverance, but there's also a magic involved to it. So when I talk about the call of the muse, it's whatever you feel inside that makes you say, I would like to try this. It can be painting, it can be baking, it can be writing, it can be acting, it can be dancing, it can be singing, it can be playing an instrument, it can be sculpting, it can be whatever you want it to be. But that's what the call of the muse is that little sense inside of, gosh, I would love to try this. So the first group of folks who I'm thinking about are the folks who have not answered their call to the muse for a variety of reasons. Sometimes we sort of think in our society that, you know, like once you want to write, you just write and then you get published and it's super easy peasy, and that's not true. Once you want to act, you take some lessons, you do this, you meet an agent, and then your career is launched, and that's not true. And so I think some people get overwhelmed by the process, or they have some systems inside that say, I don't have the talent or I'm not worthy. And so those are some folks I met. I've met other folks who have given up on their call or given up on their journey with the muse. And a lot of times those folks are around my age in midlife and sort of looking around saying, is that all there is? And when I talk to them, they'll recall a you know, an instrument, a band they played in high school or college, or, you know, that they used to paint, or that they loved to act at a certain phase of their life. And for whatever reasons, they gave it up. And usually not people give these things up because they want to grow up, or they've got a family, or they've got to be realistic, or they've got to do this. Not understanding, I think, that we can be called and do creative things and also, you know, have a varied life. That success in your artistic expression cannot be measured the same way we measure success in careers. And so that is a conversation I've had. And when I talk about that with people and tell me about playing that instrument in college and what it meant, literally I see the wistful pain on their faces. They're recalling the joy of that journey. And so I think about those folks. And then I've also been meeting and know a lot of artists and writers and folks who are doing the work and have lost the inspiration, so that the hustle has taken over the joy and derailed the inspiration. And so those three different types of people were whirring in my brain as I was going through my coaching training, and I was thinking about how to best serve people on their creative journey, because I truly believe, and I know that creative energy is there for everybody. Not everyone taps into it, but it is an energy that brings tremendous joy into your life, and that it's there for everybody to tap into. Nobody ever should tell you that you don't have the talent or you don't have the ability, and that the journey is the point. It's not the destination. So when I started writing 20 years ago, really started claiming my space as I want to be a writer, I didn't know that 4 years ago my first book would be published. It was a dream. It was something I wanted to be, but that's 15 years of taking classes and meeting people and being on the journey and loving it. Loving the act of writing. I still love the act of writing. I find tremendous joy in it. Being a published author has its own set of joy, but that's not how I can measure my creative self, right? I mean, because that has a lot to do with good business practices and everything else. It also has to do with luck and with, you know, business and a lot of things out of your control. So when I thought about all of this, and I thought about the process that people can go through in order to really claim their space in their creative journey, Muse Mapping came to mind. And I was partially inspired by Harry Potter and the Marauder's map. And remember when they tap the map and mischief managed, and it closes up and disappears? Well, I was starting to think, what would happen if I could give folks a piece of paper, and then we can say mischief achieved, because on that piece of paper we map out the steps to go on your creative journey, completely understanding that it's not as simple as saying, oh, today I'm going to paint, or today I'm going to bake an epic cake, or today I'm going to do whatever it is you feel called to do. That there's a process, and that there's stuff that gets in your way of succeeding. So that's why I've developed Muse Mapping and created Muse Mapping. And so the 6 steps, I'm just going to make sure that I tell you all the steps, because each day this week, and then I'm going through next Monday, I'm going to be doing mini training on each of these steps, so that I'll introduce you to the concepts behind them, so that you can look at them, or you can sort of explore them on your own. So the first step is preparing yourself for the journey. And that is, you know, doing whatever you need to do to be ready to go and forth and to partake in the journey itself. The second step is charting the obstacles. So we all have things that pop up when we're on our path that doing things that we want to do. They can include things like, you know, fear, limiting beliefs, you know, obstacles that you don't expect, things, and you have to learn how to navigate them. And they can be pretty complex, and navigating them can bring up some other stuff. So what tools can you develop to actually be able to navigate all of those obstacles? The third step is actually doing some research and exploring different paths available to you. And I break that down into why you would want to do that in order for your creative journey and what that can possibly mean. The fourth step is drafting a plan. So coming up with some goals or some things that you want to think about, or, you know, how to actually start to implement the I want to learn how to do this plan. You know, as an aside, 10 years ago, I set out to run a half marathon. If you know me at all, you know that I'm not an athletic person. I was always the last person to be chosen on teams when I was in school. I've never claimed that space or, you know, necessarily wanted to, but I thought, let me try this and learn, because I knew that the process of running a half marathon would open things up for me and would help me learn. And my Muse Mapping journey, on that creative journey of learning how to run a half marathon, I mean, I trained for 6 months, found a fabulous community, did all the things, had a plan, you know, worked through obstacles, all of the things I'm talking about. And I was able to achieve my goal. Even if I hadn't been able to achieve my goal, as I say all the time, it's the journey, it's not the destination. I learned so much about myself and about the process. So if you have an athletic endeavor that you do, it's the same sort of process, right? It's you don't just say, I'm going to run a half marathon today, unless you're in really good shape. If you're like me and in no shape, I had to like learn how to do this and to build up the stamina. So that's what I want to have. And that's what kind of drafting a plan is how to help you build up the stamina and understand what it's going to take to get going. The fifth step is preparing to stay the course. So you've got everything, you've got good intentions, you set out, and we all do this, and then you lose steam. So how can you make sure that you don't lose steam and that you can dive deep into the other steps? And the sixth step is setting out on your joyful journey. And it is a joyful journey being a creative person and tapping into your creative energy. It's not always easy. It's not always happy. There are moments that you're going to be you know, frustrated, all of that. But that doesn't mean those moments aren't without joy, right? Joy is important. It's important for you to understand that you can have a joyful journey and that you can do this. I'm saying that to all of you, anyone listening to this, you can do whatever you want to do. I'm not going to promise you you're going to be perfect. I'm not going to promise you you're going to get rich from doing it. I'm not going to promise you that it's going to be the most successful thing at the beginning. I am going to promise you that you'll find a joy in creating that you didn't expect, and that this joy will bleed out to the rest of your life, and that this joy is what makes it all worthwhile, right? And I truly believe that. And I think that if you're watching this, then you know that as well. So that's the Muse Mapping. That's the system that I created. And what I've decided to do with that is create a program. And so on November 18th will be the first day of the Muse Mapping program. It's going to be an 8-week program so that we can help launch I can help launch you into 2020. So with those goals in mind of, you know, there's something epic about going into a new decade and the possibilities there. So how can I help you on your journey to say, this is going to be the time I finally X, Y, or Z, or I'm going to do this again because I love doing it. Or I'm going to reclaim or find my creativity again, or my inspiration, or fall in love with my art form again. And this is how I'm going to do it. So we're going to start November 18th. I'm completely aware that we're going to be going through the holidays, but it's an 8-week program with weekly lessons and worksheets to work through, that will help prompt you to do some of the inner work that you need to do and some of the preparations for 2020. And I decided to launch it on the 18th so that we're going to end the first week of the new year, and really be able to say, okay, I'm here, this is what I'm going to do, and claim your space and set those goals and set off. In addition to the weekly video lessons that I'm going to have that you can watch anytime and as many times as you want, the worksheets and the other resources I'm going to provide, I'm going to do weekly group coaching calls with folks so that we can really talk through some of the stuff and things that come up for you that you need to talk aloud. I'm here for you, and we're going to get through it. And there will also be a private Facebook group for everybody in the program to talk to each other and to support each other through the journey. So I'm very excited about this journey. And as I said, over the course of the next week, I'm going to be doing mini trainings on each of the 6 steps, and then be talking a little bit more about Muse Mapping itself next week. It's, as I said, it starts on November 18th and it runs through the new year. It's 8 weeks. And I'm really looking forward to talking about the journey itself over the next week. So I want to thank all of you for joining me today and for being here. And, you know, I want to also thank you for doing or thinking about doing your creative work, because it's so important. It's such a gift to the world. It really is. And it's a gift to yourself. And what better time to give yourself a gift than in the waning teens of this new century and going into 2020. So come back here tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern, or, you know, I'm doing it live on Facebook. I'm doing it live on Instagram. I will also be downloading the videos and getting captions put on and make them available so that you'll have access to these videos as well. If you're interested in joining me on the journey, check out musemapping.com or contact me at julie@yourladders.com, and I'm happy to talk to you about any of this. And thanks so much for joining me today. I will talk to you tomorrow at 1 o'clock. See you then. Bye now.